we were enjoying those movies. And
Right.
Rocketeer, I didn't see right away. It was a couple weeks. I remember very vividly with my friends. I have two friends I went with, Brian and Craig. And we were the only three people in the auditorium. It was
Well,
at like a midnight showing or about like a 10 p.m. type showing. And we're in like week 2, week 3, or whatever it was. And we were the only three in the place. It was so surreal. And so it was also so fun. I mean, we had a great time.
An innocent discovery.
I wouldn't touch that if I were you.
A powerful weapon.
I want that rocket.
A deadly conspiracy.
They're working for a Nazi agent.
An extraordinary adventure.
Jenny's in trouble.
We've got the girl.
Here he comes!
The rocket will come to us.
We're only gonna get one pass at this!
Rocketeer.
Blast off with the Rocketeer against Neville Sinclair, the enemy agent, and his henchmen. This game for your Nintendo Entertainment System provides the kind of action the Rocketeer lives for. Blasting Sinclair's thugs, snipers, booby traps, enemy flyers, and heavy artillery. The battle will lead to many places, from the Bulldog Cafe to a Zeppelin high in the Hollywood skies. So don't wait. Propel yourself into high adventure. The video game from Bandai.
All right, folks, here we are again. A first-time watch. That's right. Baron is in the house. This is one that he hasn't seen, and I'm thrilled to be able to have a chance to talk with him about it. It is 1991, The Rocketeer. That's right. The Rocketeer is a Disney film. I remember seeing it in theaters. We're going to talk about that. But Baron, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. And yeah, let's talk about the first time watching Rocketeer with you, brother.
well, thank you for having me back. Yes, it was a joy to watch it. Actually, Mike and the gang, we watched it on Sunday, so we turned into a watch party for ourselves, and it was rather entertaining, I have to say. Good concept. It reminded me of that Commander Cody from the 19, what was it, the 40s or whatever.
Mm-hmm. The serials, yeah,
Those
back in the
serials,
day.
the Republic ones, yeah. So it's like I can see that was where a lot of inspiration came from, and some great concepts. And I know it was based off of a comic book,
Mm-hmm.
1983, and they were trying hard for a while there to get that made into a movie, and they finally did. I really don't know how it did in the theaters. I mean, I don't know if it was kind of a hit or if it was kind of something that. Mm,
Yeah, I want to talk about that. We'll start right with that because let me pull
okay,
those.
sure.
I'll pull the actual numbers up while we're getting to it because
Okay, you got it.
um, I remember seeing it in theaters, so I wanted to kind of talk about my experience because it opens opposite. Make sure I got to put in the full Rocketeer thing, or I get too many weird other things. So it opens opposite City Slickers. So the
Okay.
famous Billy Crystal movie, and Jack Palance gets an Oscar for this.
Yep.
So it kind of struggles out of the gate in June of 1991. City Slickers was on its week 3. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was still in theaters. There's a film called Dying Young that had come out, and this movie opens fourth
Okay.
that week. So City Slickers was really a bigger deal. I mean, I don't even know monetarily it was a massive. I had to look up the numbers on it, but I remember seeing City Slickers on opening night because I had a writing project for one of my film classes on editing.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
I had to go see, and you had like a month. They never ever had these things because they did. You were poor college kids. But they're trying to encourage people to get to theaters because they're trying to be, cinemaphiles. And so, but I went to the movies, as you probably know that era. Like if you knew someone like me who worked at a movie theater, you would figure out ways to get other people to the movie theater. So I went to
Right.
movie theaters probably 3 times a week. I mean, it was pretty much all the time.
Mhm.
Uh, City Slickers, and again, for folks that don't know, right? Because back in the day, Baron, movies didn't open ubiquitously. They weren't in every
Right.
single corner, right? So if
Yep.
a chain owned them, they would be at the one location from each chain.
Mhm.
So I worked for General Cinemas in
Okay.
Tampa, and there wasn't a City Slickers. City Slickers was AMC near me, so I went to the AMC and I saw it opening night, and then I took my friends. We went back and saw it that weekend. So poor Rocketeer, and we all enjoyed uh, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, even though Kevin Costner's accent and it hasn't aged as well, and
No.
obviously Christian Slater is just in it because he's Christian Slater. It's like there's, you know, we were enjoying those movies, and
Right.
Rocketeer I didn't see right away. It was a couple weeks. I remember very vividly with my friends. I have two friends I went with, Brian and Craig, and we were the only three people in the auditorium. It was
Wow.
at like a midnight showing or about like a 10 p.m. type showing. And we're in like week 2, week 3, or whatever it was. And we were the only three in the place. It was so surreal. And it was also so fun. I mean, we had a great time. But yeah, it made 46 million. It kind of hung in there for a couple of weeks. So it was fourth place, 6th, 10th, and 12th coming out during the summer. It also is the same summer. If you know 1991, Judgment Day comes out. So Terminator 2 is going to drop. So that's the oxygen's
Oh,
gone then. You're
yeah.
totally toast. Everyone's going to see that movie.
Hmm.
So at a very high level, did you have any like first impressions from what you kind of had heard or knew about the film versus what the film actually is?
Well, yeah, because it's kind of funny. Even though I never saw the film, I heard a lot about it,
Hmm.
obviously, and a lot of people love that helmet. You always see
Hmm.
that helmet pop up in people's collections, and understandably so. So basically, walking in, I guess I was not surprised what this film turned out to be. It was exactly what I was expecting. Um, that great cliffhanger era type film in the 30s, where basically when that got going, there was no stopping. It was, uh, it was like, okay, we're gonna go, we're gonna go, we're gonna go. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, it'd be great though if he gave us like a cliffhanger moment, like the old serials, but neither here nor there. But everybody's performance I thought was really good. Adam Arkin in there, playing the assistant there to Billy Connelly's character, the Rocketeer himself. Uh, it was it was magical in that sense. And Terry O'Quinn as Howard Hughes,
Yeah.
always a great actor, always a great actor. Always loved seeing him, and I thought he did a great job there as Howard Hughes. Um, in fact, out of all of it, I think that was my favorite performance in the whole shebang. But yeah, I mean, this came out a couple years after Indiana Jones, which is part of that cliffhanger thing.
Hmm.
Years before that, a couple years before that, you had Alan Quartermain with recently deceased Richard Chamberlain doing those two movies. So we were still in that cliffhanger. I think about that time though, that era cliffhanger stuff was kind of coming to an end with
Yeah, the
I
sci-fi
think
boom. Sci-fi boom was really kicking in, and obviously one like
right,
say again, same year, same summer, a couple weeks apart. When Terminator 2 drops, everybody's
right,
world just changes. It's a
yeah,
game-changing type film for technology and approach.
hmm,
Could a sequel be greater than its original? Revitalizing that argument and debate. I mean, it was just all
right,
of that was happening. It's great that you bring up Alan Arkin. I met Alan Arkin on the set of Edward Scissorhands, and such a sweet
oh,
gentleman in real life. Just
hmm,
very reserved and proper, if you will, like just in very 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 nice man. And
hmm,
I've always been sad because I always felt like the first part of the film, his role is significant and he's able to have
hmm,
some scenes and really do some stuff, and then just he's sort of kind of forgotten. Nothing actually happens with all the action
yeah,
sequences and all that, and then just he kind of pops up at the end, but
hmm,
it's kind of tragic in that regard. And poor Billy Campbell, man, I don't know who his agent was or why his career didn't sort of boom for him.
hmm.
um, because Billy Campbell doesn't really land. I always think of like Dylan McDermott is another one. They have a
Oh,
few films and things that
mhm,
should have launched their career and made them bigger,
mhm,
and yet it doesn't seem like it took.
right,
It's kind of weird. It's just weird. There's just some of those. There's a couple of those actors I
mhm,
think are very solid,
mhm,
and he seemed like a young enough guy headed into the 90s that he could have landed a gig that could have
mhm,
really kind of continued to build upon this performance, but no, just didn't happen for him. He just kind of has different roles. He's a journeyman actor, does a ton of stuff.
mhm,
I'm not trying to take
right,
away from his career, but he never becomes like the superstar that he really was right there at the gateway of having, for
yeah,
sure. So.
should have had more opportunities. I just realized I called him the wrong name. I put his name along with his co-star Jennifer Connelly.
Oh,
And I
right, yeah,
put
better
him
yeah,
because
Billy Connolly is, yeah,
the
he's in
Scottish comedian.
Watchmen, right? Now
Yeah.
Jennifer
Oh yeah.
Connelly, my
Mm,
goodness, she is just a beautiful lady. I don't even hear I don't hear positive or negative about her. I don't hear anything. I
mhm.
just know she's described as sort of classy, which is an
Yeah.
adjective we don't really use anymore.
Hmm.
Beautiful lady. They were a couple for a while, her and Billy, and they lasted for about
Hmm.
5 years, and that kind of went sideways. She is obviously just the perfect female lead in this role in this film. I think it works really well. And again, Joe Johnston, who does the direct behind the camera,
Hmm.
again, one of those guys that does, I think, solid work. And I think the difference between like him and like I think of like Bob Zemeckis is Zemeckis seemed like he always found a way to tinker and change the script. I think it's because he got pretty close with Spielberg, who would allow
Right.
he had the leverage, right?
Hmm.
Johnson just would be stuck with scripts that were not necessarily great. But
Hmm.
as far as execution and doing a good job with what he's working with, he is never usually the problem. You know
Right.
what I mean? This movie is very solid. You can definitely feel why he would be a great Captain America First Avenger director, why
Hmm.
he was, I thought he did a great job with Jumanji with what he had to work with. I think that the script for Jurassic Park 3 is the problem, not necessarily his execution of that. And he's one of those directors. I just wish the shoe had fallen a couple different ways. So he may have gotten other jobs or something that would have boomed his career a little differently. But
Yeah.
yeah, Rocketeer is a fun one to kind of highlight all this.
Yeah, and that's just it. That's the one thing I've said a lot is the film might not be good, but it was executed well because the director did a good job. But he was given a turkey script, or the same thing with
Hmm.
the actors and actors. They're working the best they can with what they're given, and sometimes you have to look beyond what the film is and see, yeah, the technique is good, the actors and actresses were good. In this case, the film was good too. So
Hmm.
don't want to take anything away. I'm upset though that he did not have that C96 broom handle Mauser that long in that film.
Hmm. Yeah, man. There was,
Not with the way right away.
yeah, there's a ton of opportunity in this film. And I feel like it's a
Hmm.
very solid film. And you have basically a sequence of events early in the film with some gangsters who are stealing from Howard Hughes, and there's a police chase with some feds,
Hmm.
and they hide the backpack, and this kid that's a pilot finds it, and then you have a
Hmm.
sequence of events with him experimenting and then ultimately deciding that he's going to use this to try to better his life, and it leads to a series of adventures and moments. And
Hmm.
it puts him in the crosshairs unknowingly. He's in the crosshairs of Timothy Dalton, who's always phenomenal at everything that he
Oh yeah.
does, and who turns out to be the villain. And there's some twists and turns, and I will admit this was very ambitious for 91. Again, I say that knowing that Team Terminator 2 is out there, but that's a special thing, folks. I know this is a hard thing for folks who didn't live through it. Not everything was going to be Terminator 2, even if it's around that time frame.
Hmm.
Disney was definitely Disney is kind of on the downs in the late 80s and early 90s, right? So they wouldn't
Right.
have had the money and the high profile techie people to deliver better CGI and stuff in this film, because it definitely
Hmm.
is wonky in the first half of the movie. Like, but they're also shooting the daylight scene. Don't you know, Baron? Like, don't you think that those daylight shots are where it looks bad when it's at night? It
Yeah.
looks really, really solid.
And that's just it. When back in that day, daylight special effects were always hard. You even noticed it with Empire Strikes Back before they cleaned it all up,
Hmm.
where you could see the bleed through and such. A lot of that special effects you're doing always work better at when you had a darker uh, backdrop, you might say. But they tried though, and you got to say in yeoman's work. You didn't have that huge a budget. It's you're trying to do the best you can, and I have really no complaints about it. It's like, okay, it's the product of the day. Yeah, even back then might have been a little wonky, but again, it comes down to that story. You can forgive some of the wonkiness. But yeah, we come a long way with special effects, even practical special effects, trying to do that daylight uh,
Hmm.
type of thing. So I mean, you gotta give them A for ambition for the attempt for trying to do it because that's how you learn.
And they were given a higher budget as they went along because the dailies were so good. And again, scenes
Right.
like this, even though it was an interior shot and they're doing wire work,
Hmm.
it does feel rigid, but it also feels really good and it feels right for something that's supposed to be set, in that time frame. Like it would have felt more off to have like perfect CGI and stuff in some ways for
Right.
some of those shots. It feels more like a serial project, right? Because it
Hmm.
does have some of that. I don't know. I loved it a lot. I really enjoyed that element.
Hmm.
Kind of even more so than I thought I would, if that makes sense.
Well, I think again it goes into the category. They might not have done that by intention or design, but it fits in with those old Republic serials where you could see the wires, you could see what they were dealing with the cardboard sets and such. So, in some ways, it kind of again helps that feel of that cliffhanger era of the serials. So I think it kind of blended nice in that aspect, even though they might not intended to do it.
I think some stuff. This is so there's a quick sequence there you saw with these mobsters. They catch
Mhm,
Rocketeer in a net, and he's faced off against this guy. I believe his name is Lothar.
mhm.
Um, Lothar is fantastic. I love Lothar. He's a famous actor who's been in a ton of stuff, man.
Yeah, Tiny Ron Lester, he was a great guy. Yeah,
he
played that.
I actually just rewatched. My video will drop soon. I did a rewatch of Ace Ventura, which, by the way, is a fun film to revisit for no reason at all. And he has a quick shot in that, but I think that he, like many other members of this cast, also have roles pretty common in Star Trek, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, he's in the Naked Gun movies where he's like the tall guy that drops the banana out of it. Yeah, it's like that guy because he's like a
Hmm.
7 foot tall actor.
Yeah.
Um, but I love the shot that we shoot through the net. Like it
Hmm.
feels so real because we're really in the scene. There's an actual net, it wasn't CGI'd in. It's he's really in this room. It's really decorated like this.
Hmm. Yeah, you got
This
that point of view.
Yeah, yeah. I think it lends itself to a lot of those moments.
Hmm.
There's Timothy Dalton, of course, and there's here's his the wire work, and I don't think it really. Let me move it over a little bit, and
Hmm.
well, it's not going to let me do that. Okay, of course. Let's see if it gives us another shot. But the sets I think are phenomenal.
Yeah,
Um,
the costuming, the makeup, making them look like they're
yeah.
actually in 1938. I love how they made Lothar look like Rondo Hatton.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, there's a big homage to him. Yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with that guy.
Oh man, yeah. He is an odd enough looking dude, and then with this makeup and stuff, it's phenomenal. It's
Oh
really is.
yeah,
Yeah, it's really phenomenal.
I just kind of seen the one scene where he was talking with the makeup. It just didn't look right. That's about the one thing. Is they could have done a little bit better, I suppose. But
Yeah, it
yeah,
would do
okay,
better when it's not moving around, right? Because obviously they're using
Mhm.
just some latex applications and stuff. So they didn't hire Rick Baker or anything like that. So this is not
No,
going to be a makeup job that they can, do a lot with and allow for that.
and again, it leads to that feeling of those old serials where you had it that way. know?
That's true.
So
That's
that's
true.
why I made it fun. It's like whatever mistakes they have, well, or things that didn't go quite well. It's like yeah, well, just like the old days. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, and go. Yeah, if this was in black and white, this would be really interesting.
Hmm. Their chemistry is, I think, also really great. They really
Mhm.
feel. I mean, obviously, they ended up dating and stuff in real life and become a couple
Right.
in real life, but you really do feel a good chemistry, and yeah, and actually, I don't know about you, Baron. I love your first time watch reaction to this. As I was rewatching it, and they have this tension where he's not really being attentive boyfriend, and he's got the
Hmm.
secret and whatever. And she's like, "What is wrong with you?" And you really feel like, "Oh, you two kids, just knock it off." You know what I mean? You just
Hmm.
feel like you two are together. Just please stop with all this bickering nonsense. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like if you're around young kids in their 20s and you're like, dude, you guys just knock it off. You guys are fine. Please stop it
Mhm.
already.
Yeah, exactly. The old saying, "Get a room, go." Liam, it's just you guys just knock their heads together, and hopefully out of that they get a kiss, and it's like, okay, now I now pronounce you boyfriend girlfriend. Have fun, It's like go on a date, see a movie, and
Uh,
she has that classic beauty that you saw. I mean, how
mhm.
they did everything for her. Even in real life, she looks like she stepped out of the 30s and 40s, one of the beautiful actresses of that day.
Yeah, she is just like I said, classy is the adjective that I want to go back
Yeah.
to. She's just beautiful. Um, and I love her in so many things. Like yeah,
Mhm.
I just have
Now,
increasingly become a bigger and bigger fan of her work.
mhm. Now, as it goes, I try, as I always try to say, try to be as fair as possible to the original source. I did like the fact that they changed what her character was from the graphic novel, because in the graphic novel she was basically Betty Page,
Mhm.
right? And Betty Page, and it's not the fact that you had Betty Page as a nude artist, nude model, which Disney didn't want to have. Obviously, he had that name back when Walt Disney meant something. Uh, but that would have been so anachronistic in there because Betty Page was much more of a '50s icon,
Mhm.
which is far different than somebody. You have more like Greta Garbo and all that in that '38 and the '40s leading into the war. So I like the fact that they did change the character over to being an actress or a struggling actress. Because again, you got this beautiful look, and I'm not saying Betty Page didn't look beautiful; she did, but again, her look was '50s, not
Mhm.
'38,
Right.
and so
Right.
I did appreciate that change that they had on there. And hey, it didn't seem like the creator minded much. He did film that cameo where he got himself blown up.
Yeah, I didn't see a still to show in that. That's kind of fun that he got to be, and that would be the cool cameo to have, right? The guy that gets to do
Mhm.
the rocket test or whatever. Um, yeah, and this film is. I mean, I should look up. One thing we never talk about when we do these kinds of
Mhm.
things as YouTubers, we never give credit to some of the crew. I need to find out who the
No.
casting director is. The casting
Oh,
director is phenomenal. I mean, I can Nancy Foy,
that's
Foy, Foy, a
she should
veteran
have.
casting director. She worked under Coppola back
Oh,
in the
there we go.
day. That's why she
There
knows
we
her
go.
stuff, man.
Mhm.
So she casted for The Outsiders. So yeah, she is. Yeah, she's working very closely with Johnston on his
Mhm.
projects. It's listed here.
Mhm.
So yeah, she's been around and knows her stuff.
Mhm.
Just so many. This is like, dude, guys, this is William Sanders. Like, this is,
Yeah.
yeah, this is so great. Like, holy cow, what is going on? Like,
Where was Daryl Nero?
yeah, it's like an I Spy
And he's a
of people in this
mhm.
movie.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's a great actor. I mean, we saw what he could do in Blade Runner and various
Hmm.
other ones. So he can go from that straight, serious, almost sympathetic characters to I'm Larry. This is my brother Daryl, or this one
Right.
where
Right.
obviously he's one of the gang. Yeah, and then what he was Bob the Goon in Batman,
Right.
if I remember
Yeah.
right, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah. I think so.
Bob, you're my yeah. So yeah, great actor. Max Grodenchek in the beginning there, our favorite Ferengi Rom. So it's kind of appropriate that Rom and Tiny Lister were together in that film
Hmm.
uh, because Tiny Lister played like the Grand Neguses. Paul Sorvino, great actor.
Oh yeah.
God, we lost him.
She's phenomenal.
Oh, she
Um,
is excellent. Yes.
yeah, she's great. Just great
Hmm.
cast. Great job bringing everybody together that just really delivers. Just everything feels like it just works great. It just feels like we're there.
Hmm.
Um, the mobsters are awesome, and like you said, this costuming set design. Oh my gosh, this is a gem when it comes to that. Oh my
Hmm.
god, it's like a gem. It's just insane how much detail there is in the background,
Hmm.
um, with the props and to immerse you in that experience of being in this time. It's phenomenal, truly phenomenal.
Even his hairstyle, they had him going with the kind of the hairstyle of that day,
Hmm.
and it's like sometimes you wonder if the actors have egos that they don't want their hair touched that way because, but I mean, everybody in this film was willing to have the proper haircuts, the proper looks, the backgrounds, the costume. This film deserved an award at least in these areas, but you know, neither here nor there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to try to put together. I was thinking about like the biggest snubs of the Oscars are the ones we don't
Mhm,
talk about. Like there's certain ones that just don't get, and like
mhm,
I'm pretty sure like De Niro in Awakenings and Hoffman in Rain Man, and some
yeah.
of these don't. I don't know which I had to look everything up to make sure, guys. But we were just talking about The Great Escape on Talk Hard here recently,
Mhm,
and it only had one nomination for like the editing. It didn't even get a nomination for
yeah.
this. Is one of the best war movies ever made. It's
Mhm,
just near perfection, and yet it was completely ignored for mostly movies that definitely normies have never heard of. I've heard of many of these movies, haven't seen some of them. HUD by Paul Newman, I just never have
no.
seen. But people love that movie, but that's fine. I mean, but the
Mhm,
fact that it didn't even get nominated is just criminal. And I think that you're right when it comes to costuming and set design. A movie like this, I don't know. I don't know if they got submitted or not because it is up to the
mhm,
studios to submit. But I would assume that that type of stuff would get submitted. I'm pulling up the Oscars for that
mhm.
year. There are some big movies in
Oh
that
yeah.
era. 91, Beauty and the Beast, of course, uh,
Mhm,
is up for Best Picture with against Silence of the Lambs. Bugsy, JFK. It's also the
mhm.
year for things like Thelma and Louise and Cape Fear, Fisher King. So all of sort of like genre stuff that we enjoy talking about and chatting
Yeah.
about. You probably can't get any room in the at the end, so to speak. There's not much room for us to. Of course, T2 comes
No.
out, so you're looking about
Mhm.
sound
Oh
effects and
yeah.
stuff's going to be with that. And Star Trek Six, Undiscovered Country, obviously
Oh yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah. Mhm,
Ron Howard's Backdraft is also so sound and editing and things like that. Those three films probably take up some of that. Hook won for best makeup. No, T2 wins
mhm.
for best makeup, but Hook was nominated. Um, yeah, this is a tough year to get a nod because some of the competition is pretty deep. So yeah, I don't think that I can argue that this movie should be nominated ahead of T2, Backdraft, or Hook. Even with
Mhm,
Hook and Backdraft, I could make arguments of similar. But yeah, Backdraft, you feel like you're in the middle of that fire, dude. That movie is an
mhm.
extremely underrated film. I need to write that down. We got to talk about that movie.
Background. Mhm.
Backdraft's great,
Well, mhm.
very
I
underrated
think,
movie.
yeah. I mean, I think that sometimes the best set designs and such are the subtle ones that are enough to again, it's not flashy, but it sucks you into the
Hmm.
fact that it makes you feel like, yeah, this is real. You are in
Hmm.
that time, and uh, it's like that thing where if they don't notice it, you did a great job because it, you're immersed into it. It's not something that's sticking out and doing like a member berries. Hey, remember this, remember that type of thing. So, I mean, even like this, the club and how they got that all set up. It just, yeah, they were like that back then.
And they didn't.
People
I mean,
still great
and this is to their credit because they could have gone with a smaller set design. They could have done something definitely on a
hair.
smaller scale. And we see this type of look, even with Dick Tracy. The club
Mhm,
scenes are definitely smaller compared to this. So you
mhm,
feel like, yeah, this movie has a lot of grand scale and some stuff that tends to have been overlooked. Beautiful, beautifully shot film. Like I said,
yeah,
there is some CGI stuff that feels a little dated and some of those effect shots,
mhm,
but that is probably some of the smaller elements of the complaint
right.
that I have in this film. I was trying to think. I mean, I kind of have. So Timothy Dalton's character as he's not, it's a tricky villain role because he's not
Right.
menacing, and they don't set any up. They don't set any opportunities up for him to be menacing. He's just
Mhm.
not a good guy. And then with the spoiler of the twist of being this kind of spy thing and all that,
Mhm.
it's fine and it works for what it is. Like you said, it's like that serial filled the movie of its time, but that would probably be a weaker element for people to go back to. Like it would be the kind of thing like he's not really like a memorable villain that you're going to be all, talking about or anything like that. So I think that would
Right.
probably be one of the weaker elements of the film, but I don't know that it's not his fault. I'm not even sure it's the
No.
fault of the script. That's just the nature of the story and the era that we're trying to set our film in.
Yeah, and trying to put so much into a small length film, obviously too, because there's a lot of material. Uh, it's interesting seeing James Bond playing a James Bond villain type situation
Yeah,
here.
James Bond meets Errol Flynn basically is
Yeah.
who his character Neville Sinclair is, and
Hmm.
yeah, and I like the fact that Errol Flynn was like, all the stuff about him possibly being a spy. Was he helping the government
Right.
out, and some of those kinds. So it really lends itself to being a great story that was crafted.
Hmm.
Again, you talk about the graphic novel briefly. I really haven't talked about it, but yeah, Dave Stevens does a great graphic novel. I need to read this. I wrote that.
Hmm.
I've already written that down. Yeah, I've not read that graphic novel in a long. I haven't had a copy of anything Rocketeer in a long time. So shame on me
Wow.
in that regard because they are fun. They are is fun. Yeah.
Well, I'm just as bad, so I need to,
Well, you're
see if I
new to
can.
this. You haven't even seen this, so it just
Yeah.
yeah yeah. So, but I mean,
It's
like
like
you said,
when I saw Dread and just went nuts on Judge Dredd. Same thing.
yeah, boy, and Judge Dredd's still going. Judge Dredd's still going. Mike
Oh, yeah.
Perkins just got a gig to draw. Who is the story? I forget who's doing the writing. It's a solid writer as well doing Judge Dredd. But
Mhm.
yeah, 2000 AD stuff, which still has Judge Dredd
Mhm.
because it's like an anthology series. 2000 AD
Right.
books, for those of you who don't know, are anthology books that are done over in the UK. They're all in black and white.
Mhm.
So when they're in black and white, you tend to have just really much
Mhm.
more attention to detail with the art because the standard is so high for so long. Because probably the longest standing Western comic book. I don't know if I'm wrong on that, but obviously it's not like manga or anything like that. But yeah,
No,
it's
no, no.
it's it's never been rebooted and redone. It's still going, and it's a lot of Just Dread. But
Mhm.
I'd love to
And it's a
see.
weekly.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a lot.
weekly too,
Yeah.
so that's a lot of work. You have I don't know how many stories. I think they have gone colored now, but back in the classic days, yeah, they were black and white. You got Brian Boland who was in there that, of course, went on to do Killing Joke and various other stuff. If people know that name, a great artist in my opinion.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's Judge Dredd did that. Now this one's getting me really perked up interested in what the original Rocketeer was. If this was so good, the Rocketeer graphic novel's got to be pretty darn good. And to see what the changes were, such as like I said, the Betty White thing, not Betty White, but Betty Page thing. Could have
Mhm.
been Betty White. You never know.
I was trying to pull up the one of the more recent 2000 ADs because the one I had
Mm,
just read recently, Garth Ennis, who has a famous run in The Punisher,
hmm.
The Preacher. People know The Preacher from that
Yeah,
adaptation. Um, he did a run over with 2000 AD, and the art and stuff and everything in it is just incredible. So, of
yeah.
course, I
I mean,
can't get the interiors to come up.
Garth Ennis, I kind of go back and forth on with him for a writer. To be honest with you.
No, no. I mean, when you generate that much content, yeah, this one is in color. The one I saw them do that was in black and white. I wonder if there's just different versions of what they do
Oh,
because
they
there's
might
probably
be.
yeah. Well, yeah,
Because
I
it
mean, you
was
generate.
that British thing where there was extra taxes if you had things in color, so everyone was doing it in black and white, or they had a special splash page color, and then everything was black and white. So I think they got rid of that. It was strange British BS.
Right. You
Paul
mentioned him
Serene.
briefly. I had to get right back to Paul Sorvino. Man, he's just so good. And we all just believe he's
Yeah.
a mobster. We
Hmm.
it's we could just believe. Like it just
Yeah.
yeah. I don't even know. He is just so casually. Yeah. R.I.P.
Just
Paul Sorvino. What a run.
yeah. And of course, Worf's stepbrother in Star Trek Next Generation as well. So, and there is Star Trek connection.
There's a lot of Star Trek connections in this film. There's a
Hmm.
lot. That's like at least 5 or 6, right? There's a lot of actors
Yeah,
and people that have
yeah.
been
Max
in.
Grodinchek, Terrell Quinn, Paul Sorvino. The guy was the head of the Feds. I can't remember his name. So that's 4. Um, I'm sure there might be a couple more. Tiny Ron Lester. Okay, there's 5.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a few for sure. Um, yeah, great stuff. Great cast, just really trying to bring us some great fun in the theater, which is, man, I miss that. I just miss being able to just have a good time. And like I said, going to the theater in 91 and seeing this, like it was not the biggest thing, yet it was solid.
Hmm.
And I remember watching this with my son. He's in the it's the one that's in the Air Force, so it's no surprise that we would love watching a movie like this. So we watched it a couple times over the course of the years. I don't remember him getting like a Rocketeer buzz and wanting a helmet or anything like that, but
Hmm.
I can see that because it's just all different. It's got that retro feel. I
Hmm.
feel and every time I watch this, I see your reaction. It always makes me like, when's the last time I watched Flash Gordon?
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Golden
Every time I watch this movie, yeah, I know. Every time I watch this movie, it always makes me think, oh, when's the last time I watched Flash Gordon? Like I always end up those rabbit holes, man. It happens with Argo. If you've ever seen Argo, Alan Arkin's in that as well. Argo is that adaptation of the rescuing the people from the Iranian embassy. And they have the fake movie they use as their cover, and it always makes me feel like, oh, when's the last time I
Mhm.
watched Flash Gordon? When's the last time I watched?
I mean, I'm starting to get that Brian Blessed look, so I can go around being loud.
Mm. That's good. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who have never seen it, yes, there is a video of me like just can't believe Mrs. Potts went the full on singing the Flash, the Queen song. She just starts singing Flash.
Oh,
"Ah," and I'm like, that's the hottest thing ever to a nerd like us. Like, are you kidding me? It was this spontaneous. And she's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, you have no idea how nerdy that is. That
mhm.
is the best. That is the home run for us nerds. Yeah.
The moment you hear bump, 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 you got your attention. It's like, what?
Hmm.
What? You know, that's Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Gordon's alive.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, just a fun time. Yeah, I don't know, there's not, I have to figure out, I need to contact IMDb. So we need to figure out how to order your photos. If you would just order your photos in the order of the film, it would work better for all of us. That still cut off
Hmm.
Terry O'Quinn.
Yep.
I was hoping that I get a good shot of Terry. Oh, it's a nice shot of Jennifer Connelly,
Oh,
though. Ooh.
yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I was saying that to Mike. I said, what happened to seeing actresses like this? Now they seem so plastic because obviously they do all this work now and such. But you take a look at this beautiful natural beauty that she's got, and it's like, what happened to all these natural beauties we had? And they say, well, there might be flaws. It's like that's what helps make the beauty off of it. They're natural. This is, I mean, if she gave me that look, I'd melt.
Well, she's kind of a combination of the girl next door and the Hollywood starlet. Like she really is got everything going on for herself. She can kind of play it either way. And we've seen this manifest. I mean,
Yeah,
from Labyrinth and Dark City all the way through. And
yeah.
obviously she is kind of playing a girl boss in some ways in Snowpiercer, the TV show. And then she pulls
Mm,
that off too with sort of like a grace that many of the other characters like that don't have on screen. And
yeah.
she's fantastic. Really is.
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of like a Norma Jean Baker right there, where back in the day, Marilyn Monroe had that girl next door look, but also has those looks where obviously we got to know as she became Marilyn Monroe. Uh, but yeah, and
Oh,
I
we got to
think
give
that's
some
what
love.
melts my heart.
Got to get some love for the Bulldog Cafe.
Oh yeah.
Love the Bulldog Cafe. Oh, what a great land. This is the fun element of filming on location, guys. I know it's a hassle. I know
Mhm.
it stinks. It's probably expensive. Shouldn't be as expensive. You would think a
Right.
state that makes so much money on entertainment would find a way to get around some of these rules. But I was just listening to the Critical Drinker talk about some of the red tape he had to do with just filming their little short they
Oh,
did, and fight scenes in water required. It was like a puddle or water. It requires a lifeguard and training and just insanity. That's just so much overkill. But
hmm.
I'd love to see more of these type of landmarks find their way into more films. This
Yeah.
was fun.
Yeah, everyone knows about the teepee motels on Route 66 and such, but you see this one, it's like, wow, if I saw that, it's like, let's pull in, let's see, it's got to be good, you know.
Yeah.
They got to have good food,
Yeah.
and you're eating inside a dog.
And just to give some credit, I mean, we're talking about visual effects. This looks pretty solid.
Yeah,
This was definitely not a scene that was so the only scenes there's a couple of scenes in the first half of the movie, especially when he's first flying around during the daylight, and they're looking a little wonky. But most visual effects and stuff like this, they don't look bad at all. They look great.
no,
So, movie, if you've
yeah,
never seen it, this part definitely holds up a lot better than I think a lot of people would expect.
I was actually very surprised by that. How well that looked, especially after you see that first part where he's like, "Oh, it's a little wonky, whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And I love the name, the Luxembourg. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I said back, start wondering, hey, is that the one that Indy was on in Last Crusade? Because
Ah, that'd be funny. Yeah.
yeah, I
Oh,
mean that'd be a good little, you know. But
and
yeah, it's like
we get
seeing
to
that.
we get to blow up the land in Hollywood land because that's the thing they
Yep,
would do. I love the fact that we still do that cliche. That's always a fun one. I always enjoy that cliche.
yep. Now we
And
know.
yeah,
Now we know why land is gone, and it's
there
now
you go.
Hollywood.
There you go. And the fiery death for our villain, that cliche.
Mhm.
It's always done well. Always enjoy that. So yeah. Look,
Oh
let's
yeah,
let's see if we can race our way down to some of the marketing materials because it's always fun to get a feel for that as well. So, any other real big takeaways for you, or anything else that surprised you?
Uh, I wish I could say I was really surprised. But, I mean, like I said, as the film was going, obviously that how the special effects improved. But again, like we said, it's more night shot to day shots. But I can't say there's anything that really jumped out and surprised me because it was exactly what I expected, which is great because that's what you expect from a film like that. If you go in there and you're being sold, this is what this film is, and it's not, well, you're disappointed. But this is what they had, and it was fun. It was a popcorn film. It was like, hey, let's sit back and just enjoy ourselves. We don't need to have any deep messages. There were good laughs, good action, uh, the interplay between characters. I mean, all the characters. Again, like you said, the person who did the casting, uh, how great they did, and the only off-putting thing is I did feel it was rushed sometimes in some areas, but when you're trying to fill up a 90-minute movie, and I don't know exactly how big the graphic novel is, but we all know that even in comic books that aren't that, even 22 pages can be really jam-packed with a lot of stuff and make it hard to do just one issue as a movie. Um, so I give a lot of forgiving for that because I look at the ambitiousness of it. It was so
Hmm.
ambitious. And I'm kind of disappointed that I never saw it before. Now, it's like bad Baron, bad Baron, go in
Yep.
the corner now.
Time out. All
E-
right.
Exactly. But I'm glad that you did suggest this one, and I just enjoy it. I mean, and as they said, I mean, look at that. That's like right out of the 40s, 30s and 40s on there. And yes, he does look like a hood ornament. I
That's
mean,
so
just
good though.
yeah, I love the artwork that they do on this stuff. That
Yeah,
one
there's a lot.
doesn't grab me as much, but
Just the helmet.
oh yeah, I see that helmet pop up a lot on YouTubers. And
Yep.
that is one of my favorite pistols, the C96 broom handle Mauser. So, like I said, I was disappointed
Yeah.
we didn't have it that long.
Yeah, I got a feeling Disney didn't want a lot of gunplay.
No,
Yeah. So definitely a lot
understandable.
of different interpretations and stuff with it, but I
Mhm.
love this style for sure.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, the Art Deco. I mean, I love that Art Deco design, and it just I don't know what it is about it, but it's just like
Because
bringing
you get
ancient.
so much movement and focus and
Yeah,
yeah, just a lot. It's a little different. Interesting
yeah,
interpretation there.
yeah. It definitely is. Oh,
This is
there
the
we go.
one I remember for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That poster
Mm-hmm.
was definitely the one out front in the marquee.
Is that variation?
Oh, more like a little traditional Disney look. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. There's the one that makes its way to the cover of the VHS and such.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, a little more.
I like it because of the more subtle colors in there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Ooh, I
Yeah,
like
definitely
that
feels
one.
like in vein with that Indiana Jones analogy that you made there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that was right out of that era. Yeah, I mean, it just sucks you in.
Oh wow, that's interesting. It's more like a modern interpretation, like if it
Mm-hmm.
were made in like the 2000s or something,
Yeah,
2010s.
it's kind of generic enough. You can put Superman in there and stuff like that. That's the only complaint I have about it, but it
Right,
looks
but
good.
that's I think that's what they're going for with like a 2010 type feel. Like it's
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and there is
ooh, that's
one. Ooh, that's nice. That's looks like for the Japanese one. You know, the Japanese can have some very interesting
yeah,
designs for their posters and such. So
yeah, I agree.
this
There's
is
some,
this is actually more toned down than some of them I've seen.
there's one. Yeah, that's interesting because it almost just paints a completely different perspective of the film because it's putting the focus on them as the humans in some sort of adventure with some guy flying around. You really don't know what to expect. It's a completely different perspective.
Right.
Oh
Of
wow,
course,
that's
it
a
did have.
different video box
Ooh,
cover.
that looks like it. Is it like Polish or yeah? That looks like it might be
Yeah,
Polish or something.
it's a
Yeah.
European cover for some probably VHS box. Yeah,
Video where yeah, that looked nice. And of course, there is again that classic one of the Rocketeer.
it's a DVD
20th.
box.
Mm-hmm. And I found it interesting that they decided they wanted to go with this under Disney and not Touchstone. So obviously, they were really wanting to aim for family with this movie, which of course was one of the reasons why they changed the one character from being a nude model to just a struggling actress.
Right.
Hmm. So I applaud them for that. I applaud 'em. I wish there was something that was like that in Disney today. But there was one anachronistic complaint I did have about it. Why I don't know why they always do it, but they always try to put Schmeissers in for the German bad guys. And of course, the first year was the MP38, which was 1938. So supposedly, yeah, they could have some. And of course, the MP40, which came out in 1940. But like in Indiana Jones, 1936, what do they have? MP40s. It's like, yeah,
Mm,
a little earlier, folks. But I mean, I
right.
guess it's so synonymous, and that's the only
Yeah.
nitpick I really have when it comes to that. But the thing is, you think of these National Socialist soldiers, you always think of them with the MP40.
It is fun too. This is and I'm glad they share this because I have not seen this, but I know that this was on display at a D23 event. They had the actual props, so they had the backpack, the jetpack, and then they have the actual costume. This was one of the D23 expos, so that's
And
kind of cool.
they had
Somebody submitted
the
those.
bullet hole. Yeah, the bullet hole was in there, so
Yeah, oh,
they got
yeah,
to
you
work
can
with
see it.
it.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's kind of interesting. The jacket, the color in there looks different a little bit than It looked like it was darker in the movie, but I
I wonder
still
if
like
they.
that
Yeah,
jacket.
yeah. So yeah, definitely a fun one. I am a hard critic, so I'm going to kind of lean into that 3.5 out of 5. Um, I think your expectations kind of tailor it to move it up or down accordingly. Like if you're more into
Hmm.
some of that classical cinema that surrounds adventures and serials and stuff like we were
Right.
talking about with Indiana Jones, Flash Gordon, and such, I think you might go a little
Hmm.
higher on this movie. You might enjoy it even more. I mean, a 3.5 might even feel a little low. If you're
Hmm.
looking for something that you're really really high strung on some of those details and effects and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's also a one and done type film. Like it could have been a franchise and could have gone on and made more money, but I think
Hmm.
it was just the bad year, just really bad timing. It just came out in just a jam packed time frame where there just wasn't a lot of oxygen in the room to make a ton of cash. And I don't remember I don't remember any major buzz about it. Like it
No.
becoming like a thing. Like I just remember it being out there. It looks cool. People have always had positive things to say about it. I liked it. I always told positive
Yeah.
things about it. So it was really good to get your perspective, and I can
Yeah.
come away with your thoughts on it.
Well, I'm going to go piggyback on what you're saying there about the average. For a film that was 25 mil, and then they saw the dailies and they pumped up to 35. They really didn't seem to want to go out there and get it out there to the public. I don't know what
Hmm.
their thinking was in that area. Maybe if it had a little bit more press, a little bit more advertising, it would have done better. Again, it was still a struggle. There's no arguing about that. It still would have struggled with if you taste. Don't you wish you had years like that again, where you have all these monsters and they're battling each other in the same week? They weren't afraid to do it, and they still would come out with a good return on investment. So yeah, unfortunately, this film had that going against it. Yeah, there are some you know little things here and there that keep it from making a perfect film. And I'm not talking about the special effects. I'm just talking about in general. If you're going on a 4-star basis, actually,
Well,
four
I do 5 stars. It's
or
my
5-star. I mean,
yeah
my apologies. That's what I meant to say.
yeah.
I was going to give it. Well, I'll give it a 4. I'll give it
Yeah,
a
no, no,
4.
like I said, you
Yeah.
lend yourself to being the person that would enjoy it
Mhm.
slightly more than my scale, and that's what I
Right.
usually, as a reviewer in print, and again, that's what I spent a lot of time writing reviews. I would usually have my score, and then
Right.
below it, I had a little paragraph that would say, if it's a kids movie, blah, 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 you would add a
Yeah.
star for a kid, but if you're looking for this, you would I mean, try to give some
Right.
context beyond the scope, but keeping my
Mhm.
scale pretty much pure, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So,
Right.
yeah,
And I
fun
guess
time.
I gave it. Yeah. I mean, I give it that little extra. I mean, this is not a film necessarily I'd go rushing back to watch again, but it was on TV. It's like, oh, okay, I'll watch it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is I guess I like putting that 4 because again, the sets, how wonderful they are. That again, they're so well done. It's easy to overlook because you've been sucked in. The actors and actresses, their performance, and even Joe Johnston's direction, I think that helps take care of a lot of the flaws. But there are flaws. It's not a perfect one, but just sit back, relax, enjoy. I mean, if I go with the popcorn bucket, yeah, 4 popcorn buckets because you're just going to be going through the
Yeah,
whole
they didn't.
thing, and it's like it's over. It went fast.
Yeah, I went through looking at the 91 box office. There's no room for it to make a ton more money. There's just
Yeah.
not. So all the way back as May. And again, back then, folks, May is not a big money maker. It was not
No.
treated as when everybody went to the movies. Not until people were out of school. So if
Hmm.
you dropped in May, you were still on the fence on how much money you were actually making. That is not when big tent poles would drop.
Hmm.
Disney did drop What About Bob uh,
Oh yeah.
in mid May, which was very solid for them. Of course, then you have Universal dropping Backdraft, and then of course Soap Dish, which is a fun little Paramount comedy that comes out, and City
Oh, I
Slickers
forgot
and
about that
Jungle
one.
Fever. So they drop, and then as I said, Robin Hood Prince of Thieves drops huge. And then, of course, you get to the time frame when this one comes out, and then you end up with the Naked Gun 2.5 that I didn't mention, and
Hmm.
then Terminator 2. So you have a lot of movies. And then, of course, at the mid-July mark, they re-released the 101 Dalmatians cartoon. And there's
Hmm.
a ton of other stuff like Point Break comes out, Boys in the Hood comes out. So even if we're not talking about, obviously T2 is probably the biggest movie among the ones I've
Hmm.
mentioned. I would argue that City Slickers has that in the comedy genre where it's just
Hmm.
kind of an ageless fun film that has aged very well. Most
Hmm.
of those films are just really strong, solid experiences. So you don't, and I think Rocketeer is kind of among that same conversation. It wouldn't even have had a chance to make anything super special. It didn't come out at a
Hmm.
time. So yeah, I think it did
Right.
well for what it was up against and what it is. It's kind of a shame the studio would probably want more, but like you said, they kind of backed off their investment because they invested a little more in the
Hmm.
budget, which is fine because the effects turned out, like I said, a couple of
Yeah.
moments, but they didn't back it with some sort. But again, I don't know what they would have done differently. I'd have to look at the rest of the year and see if maybe they should have come out in the fall. But maybe for I don't know. I have to look at the whole schedule. So Yeah, good
Hmm.
stuff. I'm glad I was able to get it in front of you though. That's good to know.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was like finally someone said that, came by and there's Pops going, sit down and watch it. And it's like, okay, whatever you say, Pops. So, and I'm
It
happy
is.
that happened. I
It,
mean,
we're gonna do one that I don't think either one of us have seen. So
mhm,
Paul Whitaker has dropped a comment back. I don't know. I was doing Westworld, Future World, down that rabbit hole, that
yeah.
70s sci-fi stuff, and we talked about trancers before. He recommended Android, so next time we'll do Android, folks. And I'm pretty sure I found it on YouTube for free, so
Hmm.
we'll just link to that as well, folks, if you've never seen it.
That's
And
that's
yeah,
a Corman, isn't it?
um, I don't know. Let me
I
pull
don't
up
know.
Android and see if he's the
Uh,
producer. Um, 82 sci-fi
yep.
film. Yeah, Roger Corman is listed as a
Yep.
producer. Marianne Fisher.
I thought so.
Yeah. Klaus
You know,
Kinski, an Android program.
mhm,
I I don't remember
yeah.
this at all, though. I feel like I'm in a bubble with this one. It's one of those things with the box, because looking at the
Hmm.
VHS box, I'm like, yeah, I remember seeing the box. That
Hmm.
seems familiar to me, but I don't remember watching it. Maybe once I'm in it, you know how it is, dust off the old cobwebs in the filing cabinets, and you're like, oh, yeah, it was a Saturday afternoon, and I nodded off, and who
Hmm.
knows? I don't know. So, yeah, we'll do Android
So,
next time. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I know I seen the film, but this we're talking about 1983 is when I saw it.
Hmm.
So I mean, I just remember Klaus Kinski, and of course, anything that he's in is going to be interesting.
Hmm.
So it's going to be almost like a brand new watching a film I didn't see because it's been so long. I just remember it was again that Roger Corman Battle Beyond the Stars lookingish type thing, and I don't know if they were trying to make a copy off of Saturn 3 or what, but you know that he's kind of piggybacking off of other films with that one. So,
It's interesting. This is I don't know who this writer is they're quoting. This is just on the Wikipedia, guys. David
mhm,
Elliott wrote, quote, "The movie is done on a scrawny budget for the Roger Corman schlock shop. Its makers believed in the film so much that they upscaled it from pure schlock, and Corman, a producer who believes in talent, but even more in a buck, lost interest after early bookings failed to come up green. Corman felt the film was not exploitable, quote unquote, and so Barry Opper, brother of Don, their
mhm,
creators on this film, initiated the producer Rupert Harvey bought the rights. Android became one of those budding cult movies that may never thrive in big money terms, but
mhm.
which refuse to play dead." Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. It's got a very. I think it's got a kind of a quiet cult, but it's not like one of those like Death Race 2000, which I love. Paul Bartel was such a unique individual who directed that film. But Battle Beyond the Stars,
Hmm.
Star Raiders, I think it was. I mean,
Yeah, a
yeah, a
ton of
lot of
those
different.
movies that had, well, I think exploitable is not a bad term. Like it feels
Yeah.
like the kind of things that, and we talked about this with our cult conversation, right? Those midnight movie
Hmm.
screening events and people would go and
Hmm.
I was in college for that and it was like a regular thing. Once it started, guys, it was like that was the thing you're doing.
Hmm.
My wife had said, and I don't know what your spouse said, Baron, but mine was like, listen, if you, she told her, she told her teenage girls this in like a church thing. If you marry a nerd, you know where he'll be on Friday and Saturdays. Just saying.
Yeah.
And I'm, wow, that would have been true back in the day as well. I was just as bad on
Mhm,
Fridays and Saturdays, usually doing movie related nonsense
mhm,
in some way, shape, or form, or there's a comic book convention to go to, or
yeah,
there was a movie to film. So I was writing or filming whatever we were working on. That was,
mhm.
yeah, nerds.
Oh, yeah, and not just on Saturday and Sunday sometimes. So
No,
I
no, but
tell
I
you
mean,
what, yeah,
she obviously she's trying to sparse us out from
yeah.
everybody else in that. So,
Oh, yeah. I remember those days. It's like, it was fun. It was fun
yeah,
those days. I'd like to relive them again, but,
yeah.
it's kinda hard in this new environment that we have. But no, but the long suffering, yeah, I mean, she was married to a nerd. Now she's married to a nerd again. People warned her, "Don't marry a nerd again," and this one turned out okay.
Well, it is. Yeah. it is what it is. I wouldn't change a
Hmm.
thing. I'm very happy, and I'm happy that we can now have this platform and
Yeah.
opportunity to find other folks that are like us, and folks that are,
Hmm.
you are out there, and hopefully you're enjoying these. I'm having a blast doing this first time experience. I think
Right.
it is an interesting perspective to have it kind of completely cold and green. So the
Hmm.
links from the description. If you've seen what Baron's been doing, I know he's had a couple of good shows here recently on his own channel as well. So doing stuff with Pacific and
Hmm.
yeah, always good stuff, my
Yeah.
friend. Mm.
Yeah, 540 Studio Pacific. Whoever has me, I stand in the corner going, "We'll do YouTube for free. Do you want me, please?" So you know. But yeah, I mean, and this is exactly what I believe in what we're doing here. My goal was not necessarily talking about modern day stuff because I'm kind of lost, but when we start talking about the old and remind people what came beforehand, and if it wasn't for this, you wouldn't have what you have now.
Mhm.
And maybe sitting back going, some of the stuff we had was a lot better. So I thank you for the platform. I think it's very important to the fandom community to remind where we came from, get people out of that 10-year bubble that, it's like, well, we never had a strong female lead like this before. And we all sit back and go, Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, so many. Yeah, I know the recent comments of Star Wars and stuff. Where he's talking about there's no black actors or whatever, and you're like,
Mm,
dude, you do realize who voices Darth Vader, right? You do realize,
right, exactly.
yeah. Yeah, there's a legacy of cinema. There's decades of stuff, just like there is with
Mm,
comic books and everything else.
yeah.
Music, pick your poison, folks. There's no reason to get yourself totally bent out of shape. I have no problem
Mhm.
holding a mirror up to new shows or new movies
Yeah.
and being
Mhm.
critical, but I'm not going to let it consume me or ruin my love of the things that I've enjoyed. So
Mhm.
yeah, that kind of, and we're only like 6 weeks or so from my Star Wars Day event. So May 25th will be my Star Wars Day where I celebrate the actual anniversary of the first film. And
Mhm.
that's my one time of the year that I dive back into Star Wars and enjoy that I love. I refuse to let it go completely. And I will say this was
Mhm.
now the second movie from Disney that I've revisited. I kind of have been on a hiatus from the old Mouse House stuff here recently, but
Mhm.
had a great first time watching with the Gourd King talking about Mary Poppins, which kind of
Mhm.
restarted that. He had not seen Mary Poppins, and yeah, it's kind of fun to do that. And I'm looking forward to watching another kind of probably a crazy culty science fiction-y film called Android next time, folks.
Mhm.
So hopefully, and make sure you do check out Baron and all the different shows and creators that he's with, and hopefully he'll continue
Mhm.
to come back with me. We'll be able to talk about some fun stuff, folks. Um,
I got that sign. I'll be YouTube for free. So
yeah, he's out there.
whenever
He's
you need
ready.
me.
Reach out, reach out. But folks, listen, you guys take care out there. You guys be blessed. Talk hard. Until next time, I'm Pops.